Hey guys, so here is the up close and personal tour of Mystery 9, otherwise known as the King's Vegetable Garden, Chatelaine Designs. So here's kind of a shot of the whole thing, and then I'm going to kind of take you through some close-ups so that you can get a feel for how pretty it is. So in the very center there is this crystal that has a sun in it for the Sun King, of course. And so in the very center here, Martina actually had a couple of options for you. You could do an all stitched center, and at the very center of it was this pink thread silk, and then you would do she had instructions to make it look like a sundial, basically. She had the option where you could purchase this the sun crystal and then a handful of pink and pale green pearls from her, which is what I purchased. And there are some folks that opted to leave this entire center unstitched and then add the crystal and then the pearls. I've seen some other variations where instead of the pearls, people added some bicone crystals. What I decided to do was to basically stitch the entire center as she had designed it, including all of that pink under there, and then put the crystal on top and leave the pearls off completely. I did have to eliminate a second row of beads on each of these sides because with the crystal there they just wouldn't fit, so I just stitched instead. So this is really where it started. So at the beginning she had you do kind of this center area with the lettuces and the cabbages. This is silk pearl. It's Gloriana silk pearl, which gives it a really nice texture. It's a little difficult to work with, and it's here in the center as well. I saw that on way back in the days of the Yuku board for Chatelaine, someone mentioned that that silk pearl kind of gives the effect of a bead without being a bead. So it gives that sort of raised texture, which is kind of nice. Martina had us do these half stitches in here with this petite treasure braid. And I mean, I'll continue to say it as long as I have breath. Martina was an absolute master of texture. She really was. Just putting those little half stitches in there to give it a little bit of definition from the background. This whole border is done in herringbone stitch, then with cross stitch on the outside, and then with back stitched petite treasure braid. So and then there are these cube crystals right here in between each of those. So once that center was complete, then we moved on to doing the little vegetable beds. And so if you look at these in quarters, those two are the same, those two are the same, those two are the same, and those two are the same. They are very sweet. When you look at them closely, you can see the little radishes and maybe little turnips, maybe some little onions, and then, you know, these little islets in here that give it a little more texture. When we were in Rome for our honeymoon, we kept seeing something on the menu that the English equivalent was basically rocket, which I never knew what that was, but I always sort of envision these when I think of rocket as some sort of strange vegetable I've never heard of. Now, one of the last steps that I did when I was finishing was to go in and put all of these bugle beads in around each of these beds. And the reason for that is because bugle beads are made by making a very long tube and then cutting the tube. And so the edges of them, because they are cut, are very sharp and will cut your thread and then come loose. So you really want to kind of handle it as little as possible after you get those on there. So that was one of the last things that I did. But boy, putting that blue in there really makes a huge difference in how those look. They've been blank for so long. And of course they have Rhodes stitches in these little rectangles out here. These are all Rhodes stitches. And then from there we moved out to the artichoke beds and did these beautiful artichoke flowers. Those were so much fun to do, and they gave it such fun texture. The background of this is all one color thread. It's just variegated. And then we did a little bit of, I think that's some more herringbone stitch, possibly some beads. And so all four of those are the same, these little artichokes. And then came the swirls, which is what I call these. And so one of the last things that I did, and what I've been doing the past few nights, is putting those bugle beads on and also putting these bicones in as well. Cat hair. And I just love how they look with that sort of bright turquoise teal bicone in there. They're just so pretty. And all the gold beads. And so those gold delicas are actually what I ran out of. And they were, they're in the swirls here, obviously, and then there's a few more in the center. So after the, so I basically, when I worked this, I worked it step by step, meaning this was a mystery design, so a piece of it came out each month, and I worked it in order based on what, you know, Martina had released, until I got to the swirls. Once I got to the swirls, I got really kind of bogged down, and so that's when I decided I was going to just move outwards instead of continuing to just work part by part. So from the swirls, the next piece that I did are what I call the green hedge, which is this, and those have little eyelets in them. And then after the green hedge, then we do the pools. And so there is one of the corner pools, And you can see it's got petite treasure braid around here. It's got stitched treasure braid here, here, in the very center. All this is over one. And then it's got petite treasure braid around the outside. So pretty. And then the side pools have some petite treasure braid, and then they have one of those cube crystals in the center of them. And all of those are the same. And so after doing the pools, and I basically sort of went corner by corner from that point. So I just worked on this corner all the way out to the edge, and then I went across and worked on this corner, and then went to corner 3, and then went to corner 4. So after the pools, then comes the espalier trees. And these are, they've got the little black work leaves, and then they're beaded. And you can see right there, the beads on these are kind of iridescent. So they're sort of bluish, greenish, purplish. And on this corner, they are kind of a cranberry color. And down here on corner 3, they are a pale pink. And then on corner 4, they are kind of a lavender that leans a little brown gray. And so then came the flowers, and the flowers are, some of them are eyelets, some of them are queen stitches, some of them have beads. I guess they all have beads. And then from there, we've got this sort of green hedge up here, and this that I'm calling the railing. And so the railing is done with satin stitches, and then an X over it in petite treasure braid, which I thought was just absolute genius. I would have never thought to do that on my own. I love the effect that it gives. And then I went and I looked at Midi Mystery, and Martina did the same thing there. I was like, oh, I was impressed by her twice. So, and then the urns on the very outside, and they have the palest of kind of pearl iridescent beads on the tops of them. And there's this little beaded detail here at the corner. And the staircases also have their own urns that have their little beads on top, and the staircases are made from rice stitches. And all the staircases are the same. So once I got all 4 corners done and beaded, that is when I went back and did that very center and stitched that, beaded it, and then went out and did my bugle beads and my large crystals. And the reason that you wait to do the large crystals until last is because your thread will catch on them, and it's a pain in the butt. So it is much easier to just wait until that is the last thing to do before you put those on. So there it is, Mystery 9, all finished. I appreciate all of you guys for being on this journey with me, especially this last 111 days. It feels so good to have this finished. It really does. And I'm thrilled with how it turned out.